Boy, it's been a long time since we did some top 10s and we're about to remedy that. So let's do top 10 double features, horror-wise, part 2, or duh. What's up, guys? I'm really excited because it's top 10 time, and I'm really excited to be doing this top 10 because if you remember, I think it was a couple of years ago, something like that, or maybe last year, I don't know, but I did a top 10 horror double features. Just idea came to me. I thought, hey, everybody loves watching, double features. And so we did that. And in that video, I don't think we included like franchises were off limits. So like for instance, you couldn't put Halloween 1 and Halloween 2. I like to get a little creative and think of one movie and another movie, maybe from two different franchises, and they kind of go well together. So we're gonna do that again. I have 10 and 5 honorable mentions. And before we dive into this, I wanna dedicate this video to Jacoby Jankowski. He just got some really serious medical news and kind of hit me hard, and I said I wanted to dedicate a video to him. All right, so Jacoby, this one is for you, good sir. But anyway, let's jump into these, and I will say most of these are Killer Flicks. I went to Killer Flicks. Sometimes I like to do a top 10, and I let the Killer Flicks members actually pick out the entries, and I pick from that, and whichever's the best answers, I think. And you guys in Killer Flicks came up with some really great double feature ideas for horror, and so you're gonna get the spotlight. So, and I'm gonna run through these really quick, okay? Because I think I have reviewed every single movie in this countdown, and you're getting 30 movies, all right? So I'm not gonna spend too much time on them. I'll just kind of tell you why they go well together for a double feature. So anyway, first honorable mention, Sleepaway Camp and The Burning. That one is for Josh Jones. And I think that's a really obvious one because they're both camp slashers. Outside of that, they are kind of different tonally. Well, I guess they're not. They're both pretty damn serious. I think Sleepaway Camp could pull it back a little bit on the seriousness. I think they both have some great shock value to them. The raft scene from The Burning is like one of the greatest kill sequences in horror history. And then the twist ending of Sleepaway Camp, again, probably one of the most shocking twist endings in horror history. Still gets talked about constantly. Those that have not seen Sleepaway Camp, many of them already know the twist ending because it's just that legendary. So I think these two camp slashers go together quite well. Next one is for Josh Grubner. He's gonna go with Killer Party and Prom Night 2, Hello Mary Lou. And I think that's a perfect double feature just because they're both that 80s flavor. They have a little bit of a quirky vibe to them. They take kind of a left turn in terms of what you would expect from a slasher movie. I'm not gonna give any spoilers on this list, but I will say Killer Party, it's not your conventional slasher. It definitely takes a left turn somewhere down there and goes into even more of a different subgenre of horror. So it's just a really fun 80s college slasher too. But then you got Hello Mary Lou, Prom Night 2, which also takes kind of a left turn from the first movie, which is just a straight up 80s slasher. The second one has nothing to do with the first movie, but it goes more into like almost like a Nightmare on Elm Street type vibe. And really, it's surprising as hell and so good, even though it's very B-level-ish, but it's so good that sometimes I think I prefer it to the first movie. I think it's even more entertaining. But both these movies are highly entertaining. Next honorable mention, I picked this one. I'm gonna go with X-Ray and Visiting Hours. Obvious reason, they're both hospital slashers. And they're both slashers in general that nobody ever talks about, it seems like. X-Ray is one of those Cannon films. It was one of Cannon's first films out the gate. I guess in the States anyway. And it's got, Barbie Benton, a former Playboy Playmate. You got this killer wearing scrubs, just running around killing everybody. It's got a really psychotic nature to it, even down to the score. Really fun. But then you got Visiting Hours, which is a more serious tone for sure, but you have such a great performance by Michael Ironside. Wow. His performance alone baffles me that this movie isn't more noticed. And maybe because it's kind of outshined by Halloween 2, which is also a great hospital slasher. But this is just a deranged psychopath that gets pissed off at this television personality that throw some shade at him. And so he spends this movie trying to get to her, and he'll stop at nothing to get to her. So I guess kind of like Myers, except it's Michael Ironside, which is awesome. Next honorable mention is Maximum Overdrive and Christine. Those are two obvious choices. That's for my friend Beth. She just loves Christine like you read about. Like, she adores that movie, and I get it. Christine, it's probably one of Carpenter's most underrated movies. The score is phenomenal, but it's about a car that's evil, and it gets really jealous because of its owner. Well, Maximum Overdrive is like Christine on steroids, because it's a Stephen King story where pretty much all machinery comes alive and starts killing everybody. And it has an awesome soundtrack by AC/DC, by the way. I used to watch Maximum Overdrive constantly in the 80s. I remember they used to play it on HBO all the time. Okay, last honorable mention is going to be The Shining and 1408, Winnie Pino on Killer Flicks. She recommended that one. I could not agree more, Winnie. Those two are perfect. Just the subject matter alone about, occupying a space that is evil, for lack of a better term. And it drives its inhabitants completely insane. I need to go back and watch 1408 again. I saw it when it first came out, and I think it's highly underrated. As a matter of fact, that one, isn't that a Stephen King story as well? But I love John Cusack too, so I need to go back and check that one out again. But I just recently watched The Shining again for like the umpteenth time. You can't go wrong with The freaking Shining. It's a gift from Stanley Kubrick, because when you take a horror property that's that rich story-wise, and then you have one of the greatest directors to ever live, Stanley Kubrick, you get magic. That's what you get, and it is magic. So, but that one and 1408 go quite well together. So now we're getting into the top 10. All right, top 10 is from my buddy Jeffrey Cooley. Originally, he said X and It Follows, but then I kind of threw a monkey wrench in it, and I said, wait, what about X and Texas Chainsaw Massacre? So I guess I could, maybe if you wanted to do a triple feature, you could kind of do a little 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon in these, because if you throw It Follows in there, you got two upper level, upper crust directors, just very creative, avant-garde type directors, David Robert Mitchell and Ty West. They're just highbrow. That's the word I'm looking for. I won't say elevated, because I know some of you will get pissed off, but they're just highbrow directors, all right? So then they give you these two movies, which really kind of have not much in common, except for maybe the dreamlike feel of both of them in a way. But then, I gotta say, X and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I just remember when I first saw the trailer for X, I thought, wow, this looks like, they even have some of the shots that look like they're straight out of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. With the van, with the lower angle shot of, one of the females walking. It's all there. And, they're both set in the 70s. Outside of that, the subject matter still quite different, because X deals with, pornography and crazy old people. I guess you do have crazy old people in Texas Chainsaw Massacre too. It's a family. So, hell, that grandpa, that dude couldn't even hold a hammer. Okay, number 9 is another one that I picked, Cobra and Terminator, the action slasher. When action and horror combine, you get joyous goodness. That's what you get. And well, I guess we'll start with Cobra. Cobra kind of is a hospital slasher at the beginning. You have Stallone as Cobretti, and he's trying to protect Brigitte Nielsen. I can't remember her name in the movie, but he's trying to protect her throughout the movie. So there's plenty of action. I'd say this has more action, but you still have like the night slashers. I tell you, Brian Thompson, I think that's his name. Brian Thompson, the leader of this group, highly underrated. Really scary. He definitely had like a Schwarzenegger vibe to him, but I loved his portrayal as this character. He just played it straight, made him really, really scary. And what's funny is, like, behind the scenes, he tried to talk to Stallone about getting some kind of character motivation, and he didn't really get much. So he had to kind of come up with all that on his own. And you know what? Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe Stallone just didn't know what to tell him, so he just came up with it, and it works. It's great. But then, of course, Terminator. It's a straight-up sci-fi slasher, if you ask me. It's this killing machine that's after Sarah Connor. That's his mission. He just wants to kill Sarah Connor. Comes from the future, And you know, one of the greatest love stories ever between Reese and Sarah Connor. But you know, he's killing everything in his path to get to her, so that qualifies as a slasher in my book. But even the overall nature of Terminator definitely fits into horror much more than Terminator 2. It just has a horror vibe to it, and it works really well. As a matter of fact, when the movie came out in the 80s, when I first saw it, I thought it was a horror movie. That's what it felt like to me. Oh, I'm watching a horror movie. Okay, cool. He's cooking fools. And you know what? Staying on that with number 8, we're gonna go with another action slasher duo, 10 to Midnight and Silent Rage. And I'm gonna give this one to Jason Nike because he did jump in there. He's a really big fan of action slashers. So Jason, I gotta give you props on this one. But 10 to Midnight is easily one of the most underrated slashers I've ever seen, with Charles Bronson. This killer that's completely psychotic, which, by the way, he kills all of the victims naked. He is naked when he kills them, which is kind of hilarious. The guy who played him, he went so over the top, and when you have somebody that's not as seasoned of an actor, at least I didn't think he was, but they go for it, sometimes it can turn in even more memorable results, you know? And it worked. It really worked. And then you have Charles Bronson in the mix, who Charles Bronson's not going to be afraid of anybody in any movie. I don't care what the subgenre is. It just gives it a little bit of a twist on the flavor of it, you know? Because it's almost like he's hunting the slasher. And he even like confronts him and says, I'm not afraid of you and I'll take you out in a heartbeat. It's a great slasher because you have a lot of these young, I think they're college students or young adults, women, and they all live together. And that last act, there's a great showdown at the end with the killer coming in, and it's really bloody and he's just going for broke. But then of course, Silent Rage, you know, Silent Rage, Chuck Norris versus Michael Myers. That's what they always call this movie because the experiment, I guess, that he is fighting in this movie, it's unstoppable. You know, they pump him with this serum, kind of like super soldier serum, I guess. And so he becomes this killing machine, and you can shoot him a million times and he keeps coming after you. So ultimately you have this great showdown between Chuck Norris and the villain. And I remember watching this one when I was really, really young, and it always stuck out to me throughout the years. And I was surprised that very few people would bring it up. They'd always bring up like Missing in Action, those Chuck Norris movies. But Silent Rage is really good. Number 7, I'm gonna give it to Chris Snyder. It is Jennifer's Body and Ginger Snaps. I think it's a really good double feature just because they both are like the 2000 to 2010. I think Jennifer's Body just squeaks in there with 2010. You have two characters. In Jennifer's Body's case, it's two friends with Needy and Jennifer, and then in Ginger Snaps, it's the two sisters. You know, and one of the sisters trying to help the other one who is becoming a werewolf. So they both have a creature aesthetic to them as well, because Jennifer, she's becoming a demon throughout the movie. So there's also that metamorphosis that's happening throughout. And they're both just really, really fun movies. Great soundtracks. Two sexy sirens you had, freaking Megan Fox in Jennifer's Body. And then you had Catherine Isabel in Ginger Snaps. And I think there's even like 2 scenes that are kind of similar in both movies where they're both walking into the high school after they, I guess the good part of their metamorphosis where they have all the strength and everything before it all goes to shit. Okay, next one is for Andrew Dick. He chose Hellraiser and Event Horizon. And oh my God, thank you very much. When I reviewed Event Horizon, I remember saying this feels like an unofficial Hellraiser movie. It's every bit as good as, I'd say, even Hellraiser. I think Hellraiser's a little bit better, but Event Horizon, man, that's a great freaking movie, and it's scary. Both movies are extremely unsettling, not like your typical Hollywood popcorn type horror movie. No, these go for the jugular. They go dark, and they work very well. Hellraiser, even though none of it takes place in space, the aesthetic of Pinhead does have more of a sci-fi nature to him. And of course, Event Horizon, the whole thing takes place in space, and it's like, hell. They go onto this ship that is literally like hell. So you got Hellraiser, and you got this hell ship in Event Horizon. You're definitely gonna need a bath after watching those movies, and you're probably gonna wanna sleep with the light on. All right, number 5 is for Brett Stewart. It's gonna be You're Next and Ready or Not. These two make a great double feature. They have a similar flavor, similar feel to them. And really, it's, you know, the first thing I thought of when I watched Ready or Not was, oh, this feels like You're Next, because it's this person that goes to this gathering and it ends up that like everybody is coming after her. And You're Next, it's kind of the same thing, even though it's not everybody coming after her, but she does have like 3 killers coming after her, and there's chaos all around her. There's accidents happening, just really fun stuff. So both these movies have a little bit of that vibe to them, and a strong-minded and physically strong female in terms of You're Next, having to figure it out and take everybody down. So they're really kind of like a mixture of like psychotic horror as well as slashers, you know, or like even home invasion, really. Number 4 from Frank Stout Jr., he says Upgrade and Possessor. And these are 2 that I didn't really think about, but these both have kind of a futuristic nature to them. Even aesthetically, they have some of those hyper-realistic colors, you know, with the reds and the yellows. Very different plots, but I think both the movies go together quite well. And this is one of those cases where you don't necessarily have to have the exact same vibe with each movie. Sometimes, you know, you've had your peanut butter for one, now you want your chocolate for the other one. So same type thing here. Upgrade is just a balls to the wall, kick-ass, kind of like an action horror movie directed by Leigh Whannell. And I like when action horror movies, they really capitalize on the bloody horror part. And this one works quite well with some of the fight scenes, because some of the fight scenes are like, whoa, holy crap, breaking arms like crazy, decapitations, all kinds of crazy stuff. But then Possessor really fucks with your mind. There's some crazy, crazy stuff, but you have this agent who goes into other people's bodies so she can kind of solve cases. And Possessor is just one of those movies, it's like a rabbit hole. It just gets darker and darker and darker. Crazy stuff, but you know, David Cronenberg's son, Brandon Cronenberg, directed that one. So also you have 2 very talented directors here. Number 3, Matthew J. Mertens. He gives us Red Eye and Disturbia. These are 2 of those mid-2000s movies, kind of thrillerish in nature. Red Eye takes place on a plane with Cillian Murphy and Rachel McAdams, and he is, you know, it's one of those claustrophobic type situations. They're, you know, stuck in this metal tube in the sky. You have this psychotic person or killer that's next to her, and he is toying with her, psychologically torturing her throughout the movie, which makes for a good time. Wes Craven directed this. I think, did he write this one too? I can't remember, but I need to check out Red Eye again because I haven't seen it in ages. But when he brought that up, I was like, oh yeah, that one, that's a good pick. And it fits nicely with Disturbia, which is kind of the same era. The killer that lives across the street. And Shia LaBeouf does a great job in this movie. This one's another one that I don't hear people talking about as much as they should be. If you're looking for just a straight up thriller, Disturbia is fantastic. And I just love how it deals with this character who nobody believes him. And, you know, every time he goes to that house, you're just wanting him to be able to prove to everybody else, because we know that that's a killer across. Or actually, do we even know? Maybe we even have doubts along the way. So Disturbia is really, really fun. Both movies are really fun. Okay, number 2, Robbie Phillips. He gives us Sorority Row 2009 and Black Xmas 2006. These are 2 movies, you know, where I guess they're both like sorority slashers. And they're both, I'd say, really fun, even though 2006, a lot of people hate that movie. But man, I enjoy the hell out of it just because of the characters. You know, you have a star-studded lineup here too. You know, Katie Cassidy, Michelle Trachtenberg, Mary Elizabeth Winstead. So many big names in Black Xmas, and I love it just because of how zany and how crazy it is that it didn't try to completely copy the original. It's a very different flavor than the original. But then Sorority Row is one that I didn't really like it as much when I first saw it, but I really came around to that one. You know, once I separated the original from it, because it does feel very different than the original. So this double feature kind of fits into that category of 2 remakes that feel very different than the original. You know, they don't copy the original. So I think it makes for a more entertaining double feature. And you know, it's that, what you would call that millennium slasher, you know, where sometimes that's like a bad name for some people, but sometimes it can work. You know, they're fun. Millennium slashers, if anything, they're just fun. And I think these two movies are fun. Okay, so number one, Steve Merlo, Black Christmas, the original. I thought this would be kind of fun to put Black Christmas, you know, number two and number one. And Halloween. Black Christmas and Halloween actually go together very well. You know, and there's that whole urban legend or rumor that, you know, John Carpenter might have been stealing a little bit of the flavor of Black Christmas. And it's there, you know, especially in those opening shots. Those opening shots are pretty similar, actually. Both these movies have kind of a, like an undercurrent about them of creepiness. I think Halloween's a little bit more polished, for sure. But I can definitely see strong similarities in these two movies. And they're both holiday-based. So, you know, why not watch two holiday-based movies, two different holidays as a double feature? It could be fun. And these two movies are movies that I think you can watch any time of the year, because I've watched Halloween, you know, like every month but October sometimes. And same thing with Black Christmas. I can watch Black Christmas at any time just because it's a very creepy, effective slasher movie, you know? And I think these two movies have two of the most iconic killers in horror history. Michael Myers, of course, you know, that's the obvious choice, but also Billy. Like, nobody gives Billy the credit he deserves. You don't even see his face throughout the whole movie. Unlike Michael Myers, he does speak, but anything he says is like complete insanity. This might be the most psychotic killer ever. But yet he does have some form of intelligence, because he does like to toy with the victims before he kills them. He likes to psychologically torture these ladies in this sorority house. So, just the way Bob Clark filmed the movie too, you know, so ahead of its time. I think Black Christmas kind of set the template for the modern slasher, still to this day. So yeah, both those movies I think go together quite well. So there you go, guys. 15 more double features, and you know, have a ball with these. I'm sure there's a few of you that haven't seen some of these movies, but more top 10s coming down the line. I'm going to be doing top 10 slashers part 4, because remember I did top 10 slashers 1, 2, and 3. So we're, finally, it's been like 4 years since I did the last one. We're gonna do part 4, because I've covered a lot of slashers since that last top 10 that I did. And so I thought, oh, you know what? I could actually make a good, another good top 10 out of this. So anyway, let me know down in the comments some of your favorite double features. There's so many of these, I could easily do another video. Also be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where this video comes from, where we talk horror all day and every day, and on Fridays, we do Free For All Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on all my socials. Support me on Patreon. Buy me a coffee. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Drumdum out.